SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Here's Sammy the Shovel here to tell you to call before you dig.
A lot of homeowners are working hard to create a loving home. Whether it's expanding that crowded deck, maybe a swimming pool, good times start with these additions. And that's why we respectfully ask you to first call 811 and have your utilities properly marked before you dig. It saves you from injury and expense. It's the law, and it's just the right thing to do. So call 811 before you dig. Remember us for your next project. Just call 811.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. Morning there, Rhino.
Howdy.
All right, it's all over. The old World Cup, it is Spain that ended up winning in extra time, 1-0 over Argentina. How about that?
Messi couldn't quite provide enough magic for the Argentinians to win it back-to-back.
Yeah, and that's kind of what was expected. Both of these teams, I'd have to say, are probably the best in the overall tournament. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's why it was kind of disappointing to see the display from Argentina, especially as you got closer to the end of regulation and into extra time, where they went back to their South American soccer roots of we're just going to kick the mess out of you and hope to enrage you enough to get you sent off and hope the ref doesn't see us pulling our dirty tricks. And, it bit them in the butt because Spain didn't react. Spain just kept playing their game, and eventually, with enough pressure, they got the one goal and went on to win.
Well,
Ole Miss quarterback, or former Ole Miss quarterback, Jackson Dart called it.
Yeah, he sure did.
In the pregame, he picked Spain to win.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Meanwhile, over in the Middle East, things are heating up again with the United States and Iran trading attacks. It just feels like there's no end in sight on this deal. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio apparently has said that Iran attacking ships it's not apparent, he did say this, in the Strait of Hormuz effectively killed the memorandum of understanding, says diplomacy is still on the table, still available. Sadly, you probably heard, folks, 2 of our brave warriors lost their lives over the weekend. One still missing, I believe. And also saw that an interview this morning, Rhino, with a company, and the name of the company escapes me. I didn't catch it, but saw the CEO in an interview on the Business Channel. This company is making autonomous ships and aircraft it's a full-size helicopter. Looks like your standard traditional helicopter, except there ain't no people in it flying it around, and they're using these to extract service members that are downed or caught behind enemy lines, as the case may be, and extract them out. It's amazing, this technology. Of course, all AI-driven. Really pretty cool stuff, but saving lives on the battlefield. And Hamas just named a new leader as Kuwait says it's under fire. I mean, Iran, they're just indiscriminately, maybe it is intentional. It seems indiscriminate because they're not playing any favorites here. It's like it's us versus the world is the one way to describe it. And that's going on as well. So Hamas names Khalil al-Hayya as their new overall leader. That's according to a statement from the Palestinian militant group, succeeding Sinwar, who was killed by the military in October 24, the Israeli military. So this thing is still going on, and unfortunately, that has caused the price of oil to drive upward. And now we're looking once again at the average price of regular gas north of $4 in this country, and the price of diesel up as well significantly at $5.20 per gallon on average nationwide. Just doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. Crude oil at $82, down a couple of cents today, but still north of that $80 mark. Traders on Wall Street not taking this news very well. The NASDAQ actually is in the green. The Dow was in the green earlier. It is now down 123 points. I think some of what's going on the NASDAQ is in anticipation from earnings to be released later this week from Alphabet, Google, of course, Tesla, and Intel. They're headlining the earnings reports this week. And, of course, investors are looking for more blowouts being driven by the AI revolution in this country. Meanwhile, you probably know by now that Governor Kathy Hochul of the Empire State of New York, she has signed a moratorium on the construction of data centers in her state. Although on July 14th, she stood before the cameras and she told New Yorkers something that's absolutely true that we've talked about right on this program. She said, whoever owns AI owns the future. And then, as part of the same announcement, she bans hyperscale data centers, which are needed to power AI. Does she not know that? Just unbelievable. She said, well, I agree artificial intelligence will determine which nations command the coming century, but we're not going to help in that in New York. Of course, they're looking more like China every day in New York anyhow. Just unbelievable. So if ownership of AI means ownership of the future, a ban on the factories that produce AI is not saving the environment. In fact, it's basically ceding our future to our most ardent foes. I don't see why people don't get that. I really don't. The entire war being orchestrated in Iran is powered by AI. The incursion of Venezuela and taken down of that country, completely powered by that. The U.S. government, the Pentagon specifically, a massive user of data centers and the technology. Some $9 billion a year they pay to Amazon and Microsoft for that purpose. So hopefully there's going to be a breakthrough in this conflict in the Middle East. It just don't see anything on the horizon right now. I'm a little surprised Iran is able to carry out these sorts of attacks as they are. And again, just showering the region with bombs and we responding. Of course, it's nighttime over there now, and latest reports are that, once again, significant attacks are being carried out by this country against Iran, and we'll see what they do with respect to their response. You know that over there in the U.S. House, they passed a bill that would make daylight saving time permanent. However, it doesn't look like it's going to fare very well in the United States Senate. There are a number of Republican senators who oppose this measure. I didn't know this, Rhino, including our own Senator Roger Wicker. He is among what looks like 9 that have said that they oppose it. And then there are a number of Democrats as well who oppose it, 5 to be exact. Among the Republicans, Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina, Deb Fischer of Nebraska, Jerry Moran of Kansas, Tom Sheehy of Montana, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Roger Wicker of Mississippi, Todd Young of Indiana. So it's not partisan. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, that's my gut feel at this point. There is legislation that in the state of Mississippi that would be triggered if the United States federal government should enact daylight saving time as permanent. That would trigger Mississippi into observing that time schedule year-round. But at this point, looks like, although it passed overwhelmingly in the House, looks like it's got an uphill battle in the United States Senate is where we are. Jeez. Meanwhile, you've seen this, that the United Kingdom has a new prime minister. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. We got Patrick Sullivan on today.
If you're about to... Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Last night I dug your picture out from our old dresser drawer. I set it on the table and I talked to it till 4. I read some old love letters right up till the break of dawn. Yeah, I've been sitting alone, digging up bones. Then I went through the jewelry and I found our wedding rings. I put mine on my finger and I gave yours a fling. Across this lonely bedroom of our recent...
We are back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about or planning for a retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. The C Spire text line wide open at 601-879-4395. And it's hard to believe, but it's SEC Media Days week. Getting kicked off today, the unofficial start to the college football season. Sports Talk Mississippi will be live in Tampa starting today to get you ready for the biggest event of the off season. That's SEC Media Days, brought to you in part by Pearl River Resort, Cannon Motors, Mississippi Farm Bureau, and, of course, Trustmark Bank. So I misspoke. It's not a new prime minister. It's actually a new mayor of Manchester, England. And this guy, honestly, is going off the deep end and really wanting to nationalize some of the and turn under public control, convert to public control, some of the industries in that particular city. And, of course, this is all something that he wants to do across the country.
You had it right the first time. He became the prime minister.
Okay, I did have it right. I knew he did this. I thought I did, and then I came across the piece that I wanted to quote from, and it was talking about him being the mayor. So that's what I thought. So he is the prime minister. Thank you for correcting me on that. But I think what's sort of shocking about this is his approach to governing as mayor, where he wanted to, again, transfer under government control certain industries. you got to believe that's what his plan is as prime minister as well. In fact, he said that, right? That they're serious, as he says, that's his word, about taking over, quote, essentials of life. What could go wrong if the government takes over those industries? Do these people not have history books? Do they not read those? What happened in all the other countries that have attempted this? Most recently, Venezuela, which sought to and actually did implement nationalization of their banking system, their rich oil and gas industry. That's their primary source of revenue. They ran the place into the ground, literally couldn't find toilet paper in the country. And that's not an exaggeration. Do these people not pay attention to what has happened in the past with such attempts? Evidently not. So now you got a country that's already in England. When I see England's per capita income and all the problems in the UK, I can't help but think they've been at this a long time. Can't they figure it out by now? Why are they going backwards? And that's exactly what this guy is proposing. The Greater Manchester mayor, now the UK Prime Minister, Burnham. Just incredible. Andy Burnham, his name. So, I mean, it's the same sort of message that is being promoted by all these socialist candidates here in this country as well. My concern is that when people are not happy about their situation, especially their financial situation, they just want change. They don't care what it is. They don't think about how government could come in and make it worse, which they would. They just want change, want something new, want something different. I guess that's kind of what's happening in jolly old England, and it's somewhat disturbing that trend is gaining traction. What about Diarrhea Gate here, Rhino? Now the FDA says, well, maybe it's not Taylor Farms, the lettuce producer. They came out last week and said, we got it. We figured it out. It's the iceberg lettuce from Taylor Farms, which supplies Taco Bell, used in many of Taco Bell's items. The shredded lettuce, of course, that's very common in Mexican fare. But now they say, wait, we're not sure now. What? I'm smelling a big old fat lawsuit from this company. Unbelievable. So they walk back this earlier statement, saying that earlier, how could they mess this up? That iceberg lettuce from Taylor Farms tested positive for this Cyclospora. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Cyclospora? I don't know how you say it. Though the company's recall remains in place. This was just yesterday. They say, does the FDA, they're still collecting and analyzing lettuce samples tied to this. So
yeah, the parasite is Cyclospora. It causes cyclosporiasis.
Okay, Cyclospora. So I had the accent in the wrong place, which that's one of those.
Put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
That's exactly right. But unless you look it up as you did, or you may have known that. I didn't know. It's one of those deals could have gone either way, right? That's the way our language. What's the beauty of our language, honestly? So last week, the government said, yeah, it's the shredded iceberg lettuce served at Taco Bell, which came from Taylor Farms. They did say, well, the FDA has apologized. Oh, right. After it did how many millions, perhaps billions of dollars of damage to their business? Oh, they apologize. Is this government at its best right here? You know what this sounds like? The not my problem people. Oh, that's it. Let's check the box and move on, right? That's exactly what happened. And pardon me for laughing. I know it's not a laughing matter. Honestly, it's just a reaction I tend to elicit at the absurdity of government, honestly. Wow. Man, oh man. So that's pretty big news. to be honest, that they after last week, we got it, we figured it out, we've solved it, no, not so fast. Here at home, man, the educators in the state of Mississippi are really struggling with this new procurement tool that was implemented by the Department of Education, the Class Wallet online system. The Department of Education requires teachers to use that tool to purchase school supplies for their classrooms. You know, each one of them gets a debit card for that purpose, I think $748 if I'm not mistaken. And they're complaining that they're not allowed to purchase locally, that maybe some items aren't available on the site, and that the rollout of the program had some challenges. So we're trying to get someone on, by the way, from the Department of Education to talk about this. I suspect, Rhino, there's folks out there in our audience that are either educators or maybe they have an educator in their household or in their family or friends that could also tell us about that. But they're basically saying that the system is problematic, it's cumbersome, they weren't really crazy about the way the training occurred, that it was all kind of compressed in a small period of time. So there are just lots of squawks about this system. And there's some that say, well, we're not allowing Mississippi-based companies to provide supplies to Mississippi schools. I would say that if they had an opportunity, or they should be given, in my opinion, an opportunity to participate as a vendor in the Class Wallet system, that there should be an advertising, if you will, of bids. That's a pretty standard process for procurement by the Department of Education. Hey, look, we're going to start buying supplies through this online tool called Class Wallet. Advertise that. Let suppliers in Mississippi know about that. This is pretty common in procurement in the public sector. We have laws that prescribe exactly how that advertising has to occur and how much lead time must be provided between advertising and actual award, and then list those on the site. And alternatively, if an educator chooses to do business locally and doesn't want to procure through the site, I would say as long as they're able to acquire those products at a price that does not exceed that offered by anyone on the site, they should be able to do that and be reimbursed in a reasonable time period with assurance that they will be reimbursed, not have to wait. If they pay a premium, then perhaps they should just pick up the difference in the cost, because that's not best use of taxpayer investment. Coming right back, Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute, at 11:05.
From the Seabrook. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Just happened this morning. Some nutbag up in New York City. What's going on here? Had set off in what is being described as an incendiary device.
Yeah, the first report I saw on it just had a still picture of like a plume of smoke. It wasn't a very large plume, the picture I saw.
Yeah.
And made me think, okay, what is this? Is this like somebody with fireworks, or they call it an incendiary device? Did somebody leave a flare from their flat tire kit out there? But now they've released video of it, and it looks like he had some sort of flammable liquid attached to some sort of explosive to make a big fireball, because there's a big pool of fire burning before they put it out. And the dude that set it off was apparently waving around a firearm until all the federal officers outside the federal building in New York City where this happened came running out and arrested him immediately.
And this was done, by the way, in Lower Manhattan, outside of a federal building. This is thought to be an anti-ICE attack being investigated now by a terrorism task force. That's according to officials. I'm looking at some New York City media sources. This is what they're saying, according to officials and sources. I'm looking at a photo. This is New York City police officers that have this individual apprehended, handcuffed, hands behind the back, and with the head pushed down, I guess, for protective purposes, being escorted out. So, I don't know. Every day, quote, the individual has been taken into custody and the FBI New York Joint Terrorism Task Force is investigating the incident. That, according to an FBI spokesperson. The incendiary device was outside of 26 Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan. Yeah, I'm looking at it too, Rhino, a picture, and there's some smoke for sure, but it looks like it maybe consumes, what, a square of about 20 by 20 feet, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
if
kind of what
that
I'm
big.
looking
It's
at.
between two of the big concrete planters with the shrubbery out in front of the building.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking at the video from the building across the street from several floors up, it's the video of him being arrested, and the fire's already going, but while the fire's going, you can see what looks like a fireworks mortar or something pop off in there as well. So it was likely straps of fireworks to a jug of gas or something.
Okay. Weird. We'll see what happens. We got a tropical storm that's brewing off of Florida's coast. Doesn't look like it's going to develop into a full-blown, powerful, wind-packing hurricane, but may drop a bunch of rain, certainly on our Gulf Coast as well, right? It's what it looks like, and across the Gulf Coast.
Late night Tuesday into Wednesday morning.
On the coast?
Where, yeah, there'll be the impact of Bertha if it does rise to the strength of a tropical storm and gets named. It'll be named Bertha.
Okay, gotcha. Early in the season. Starts with a B.
I mean, we had Arthur, and it did plenty of damage.
Yeah, that's true. So, the Olive Garden, one not far from where we are, we can see it outside of our window here at SuperTalk Mississippi headquarters. They issued a statement on the 16th, just last week, and I'll read it to you, and it looks like they're basically banning black people and married women from using their pasta passes. They said, no, the never-ending pasta pass is only for use by the pass holder whose name is printed on the pass. Passes are personalized and non-transferable. Pass holders must present a valid photo ID along with a pass at the time of ordering. What does that sound like? Say it ain't so, Olive Garden. Oh, my gosh. The never-ending pasta pass. So, where's the outrage from the voter ID detractors? Where are they? What's different here? You mean you got to show an ID to get the pasta pass? Maybe it's because people rip them off. That's why they're doing this. Just like they rip off our elections. Jeez, I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's from the Bronx, you know. She was in Memphis over the weekend, and she was taking a page out of Hillary's playbook and, to some extent, Barack Obama, trying to speak in a phony Southern accent, trying to sound like a Southern Baptist preacher while she was in Memphis. Oh, my gosh. She was there supporting someone named Justice J. Pearson that's running for Congress. And Rhino behind them, a bunch of, I'm sorry to say this, they just look like misfits. Like, I got nothing else to do but go to this stupid rally where she's speaking for this congressional candidate, and they're all holding little blue signs with block letters across them. Health care for all. Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. Every single one of them. Health care for all. What does that mean exactly? Yet, you know, if one of them needed medical attention, every single dang one of them could get an ambulance within 5 minutes and be in the ER with an army of medical professionals attending to them. Am I wrong about that? That's the way it works in this country. God forbid if they lived in a country where they have health care for all. As you pointed out with numerous stories in Canada and the UK, you might just die right there at the event.
Because they always leave out the operative word there, which is coverage.
Right.
They want health care coverage for all because they don't realize, with a little bit of second-order thinking, that just because you have coverage doesn't mean you get the service.
And there is a clear distinction between health coverage / insurance and health care that gets lost in the shuffle. You know, I know
Democrats are going to be Democrats, and they've always been Democrats in their foundational belief that they should gain something from the sweat of your brow.
That is 100% true.
They've been that way since their founding. If you have even a modicum of an understanding of history, you realize that.
So true.
But the problem is the vast majority of Democrat voters think history started the day they were born.
That's true. You know, I have many times on this program gotten off on rants, been upset about the left's agenda being thrust upon children, especially when it comes to one of their gods, and that's radical gender ideology. Mandy Sin, she's a kindergarten teacher, at an elementary school in Washington State. She pushed an incredible amount of LGBTQ propaganda on her students during Pride Month. That was just last month. She read kindergartners LGBTQ groomer books. She forced them to watch drag queen pride videos, made students design pride flags, dressed up in pride-themed clothing. I'm looking at some of her photos and videos, and offered pride clothing for the children to wear. Your tax dollars being spent on grooming kindergartners. This is disgusting. I can't even comprehend. What does a little kindergartner think about this? They're not developed to even understand this, and they shouldn't be exposed to it. It's not important in their lives at that point. What is wrong with these people? They're losers, and they know because they're losers, their nuttiness gets dismissed by clear-thinking adults, so they take advantage of their position as a kindergarten teacher to thrust this, shove it down their throats. Because they know they can't
actually argue in the economy of ideals, because all their ideals are crap.
Oh, meanwhile, did you see Randy Weingartner over the weekend?
Evil little woman.
She said she's fed up with Trump and says the power of the people is necessary to stop him. She went into this violent rage, jumping on and down as she always does, and said she just wants to drink vodka. Did you hear that? Oh, she's got your kid's best interest at heart, though, as president of the teachers union, right? That's all she cares about. They talk about greed. This lady is the poster child for greed. She wants her ideas to be universally accepted in the classroom. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
today.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Oh, you're gonna take me home tonight. Oh, down beside that red firelight. Oh, you're gonna let it all hang out. Fat bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round. Hey, I was just a skinny lad, never knew no good from bad, but I knew life before I left my nursery. Left alone with big fat fatty, she was such a naughty natty. You big woman, you made a bad boy out of me.
I got a question for you there, Rhino.
What you got?
Is there some sort of federal or state law that requires people to tune into the show?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So it's totally voluntary.
Yeah.
It's freedom, right? So we don't, in this country, we don't compel people to consume certain media, or any media for that matter. You have a choice.
That's why Hollywood's floundering. They keep making bad stuff, and people are going, well, I have a choice not to go to the movies.
So the market
Yeah.
is sending a message there. But why do we have at least one person that continuously criticizes us and says they're tired of us, and in this case, condemning the Democrats, but yet they continue to tune in. They say it's getting old. So I'm confused here. What? Why don't they just turn us off if they don't like it?
It's because usually the average Democrat voter has the same IQ level as what's on the thermostat over there.
Okay.
They can't cognitively comprehend that those two little knobs on the radio, one controls the volume, one controls the station. They can't seem to wrap their head around the fact that they have hands with opposable thumbs, and they can turn either one of those knobs to the left. If you turn the volume knob to the left on 999 out of 1,000 radios, that's going to turn the volume down. And on the station knob, if you turn it to the left, it's going to find a lower numbered station.
Well, here's how this works, just so this person will know. The market dictates whether or not this program is viable. If advertisers, which are the source of revenue into this network, if they make the voluntary decision to discontinue supporting the program with their sponsorships, well, then the program's no longer viable. But as long as they do, that means the program's viable. Am I being clear here?
To anybody with a brain, but
Okay.
that excludes the vast majority of Democrats,
So this
including this texter.
As this person just said, I did just that, smartass. I kind of sort of like some of SuperTalk. Okay, well, fine. You have the right to send us a text here. We allow that unless Rhino says that's enough and we block you, but we haven't done that yet. And you send it. You understand it's free game. You know our policy is. This isn't the network's policy. It's just kind of our internal policy for Middays. You send us a text and you tell us, hey, either don't read it or don't disclose my name. We honor that request every single time. But if you don't say that, it's fair game, just so you know. So we're simply sharing what you sent us into this media network with this published phone number that enables that. Simple as that. Unbelievable. Johnny in West Point says they are justice warriors. They got to fight for the cars. Oh, my gosh. I wonder if it's the same woman who let Lance have it this morning from Richard Cross reading a verbatim quote from Democratic Socialist website. Could be. You're right. True Dems are waiting for someone to change the channel for them. Cultural bias dictates they can't change it themselves. on the 769. Keep up the great work, guys. Appreciate that. So, yeah, look, this is an opinion show. People don't agree with our opinions. That's fine. If your choice is to send us your opinion and you don't tell us not to share it, we believe, the freedom to share it. Simple as that. And then respond. And that's all we did here.
Basically, if you don't want to feel stupid for something you text in, don't text in something stupid.
That's a good way to put it. On the C Spire text line, we were talking about the Olive Garden now requiring that one authenticate themselves so as not to double and triple and quadruple up on the unlimited.
Because the Olive Garden cares more about the pasta in the back of their store than the Democrats do about your vote counting.
That is exactly right. On the C Spire text line, Barry's Seafood in Florence is stopping Eat Free on your birthday due to lack of ID not wanting to be shown. I saw something about that as well. I appreciate you sending that. So what should they do, though? I mean, I applaud them for that program that, hey, if it's your birthday, you get to eat at the buffet. Shouldn't you have to prove it's your birthday, though? Is that a big imposition? So
it is if you're trying to scam them out of a free meal.
That's exactly right. And so you wonder, well, I'm not showing it to you. Is that the response because they're concerned about invasion of privacy? Coming right back.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's hour 2 of the program. It is a short show Monday. It's Ricky Matthews, Super Talk Outdoors, coming your way at 12:05 today. Let's see, one thing I wanted to pass on. Don't let the liberals keep you off from bringing the real news. Appreciate that on the C Spire text line. Somebody else asked about Roger Wicker, why he opposes daylight saving time permanently. I don't know. I haven't seen any statement. Right now it's Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute. Patrick, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, sir. Happy Monday.
All right, so there's been lots of discussion in this state, in our capital city in particular, and across the country about this explosion of data centers across the landscape. And, of course, energy is core to that, no doubt. Data centers consume a significant amount of energy, although presently it amounts for a very small percentage of our total energy consumption. It is increasing and expected to be, 10-12% by 2030, I think, of total energy consumption. But folks have concerns, and which they have expressed, and we don't need to dismiss those concerns. I think we need to respond to those concerns, but with facts, not hyperbole, and not with impulsive jumping to conclusions. Energy, of course, at the heart of this. You got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, people have questions.
Sure.
And people are skeptical, and what we are seeing is the largest, fastest infrastructure build out that our country has ever seen in terms of real dollars and investment. So obviously with anything like that, there's challenges, but there's also opportunities. And the scale of energy required to supply all of the expansion is, on the electricity side, is a rate of growth in the size and the scale of what's being required to be added, something like we've never seen.
Yeah.
But it's not just data centers. In the last 5 years, non-data center industrial growth demand has increased more than data center electricity demand. And so Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people are asking questions like, are these projects good for my community? What is this going to do to my electricity bill in my house? And those are fair questions. The argument that we make is that all of us want to live in nice communities with good streets, with working water systems, with reliable electricity systems, with electricity at an affordable price. We want all those things and everything to be nice, but we also want low taxes and low electricity bills. And so to get all those, we have to be growing. And in Mississippi, we haven't seen population growth, and industrial growth historically has lagged the national average. And so that creates challenges, like on electric systems, when you consider that there are miles and miles and miles of transmission lines crisscrossing the state that were built in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. Well, the technology today is better on the reliability side. So eventually all that old equipment has to be replaced. We've got old natural gas generation facilities on the river at Greenville and Vicksburg.
Yeah.
Those are 50 years old apiece. Eventually those generating plants were going to have to get replaced. And so without population growth, the best bet for growing our economy is large industrial projects.
Sure.
There's nothing better these days as a way to supplement local tax revenues and to add scale, the needed scale we needed on electric systems, than a local data center.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're seeing in Madison County, we see two counties right next to each other, Madison and Hinds. One with incredible revenue growth. The projections are that local the tax rate just from what Amazon Web Services will be paying over the next 30 years will average an additional $167 million a year. And that's not counting all the ancillary growth that comes with it. And then you've got Clinton and Warren County in addition to that. On the electric side, I think a lot of people fail to see that the path that we were on was one that we were heading into higher electricity prices because we hadn't had the population growth or industrial growth on the system over 2 decades, really. And then you factor in the efficiency gains in that, and so we didn't have enough kilowatt hours flowing across our system to avoid cost increases for all of the equipment that was eventually going to have to get replaced. Now, by adding an enormous new user on the system, we can spread those costs over more kilowatt hours, which lessens the impact to all the. So I think the net result of all of that to all of us on the electric system locally will be electric prices will be lower than they would have been otherwise in the future as a result of all of the local data center growth.
Well, in some research I've done, where there are complaints across the country about the increase in the rates of electricity, but most of that's occurring in areas where there are no data centers. It's actually coming from poor policies in most of these areas where they lean so heavily into renewables and weren't able to keep up with demand, and now the operators are coming at the ratepayers to fund this capital investment to satisfy demand.
Yeah, there's been a number of people now look at this because it's become such a question nationally across the U.S. So some people locally may be asking, well, it seems like my electric bill today is higher than it was a few years ago. Well, it is. And you know why? Because we went through several years starting in 22, 21, 22, 23, 24 of historic inflation increases. And so the cost of everything went up, including, and so if you look at electric prices nationally, not just in Mississippi, nationally tracked inflation. And then the other driver of higher electric prices across the country has been poor state policies, to the point that you're making. Renewable portfolio standards, aggressive net metering like the state of California has done. The state of California's pay a little more than twice as much as Mississippians pay per kilowatt hour, and it's not
twice.
And it's not because natural gas is more expensive in California. It's because there has been 20 years or more of poor policy decisions that have just piled one thing on top of the other that result in 33 cent a kilowatt hour electricity in California, where we pay somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 cents here in Mississippi.
Yeah. And it's not that high price in California is not being driven by data center construction. That's not what's going on there. It's just bad policies. Vegetation that caused fires and caused the PG&E, for example, to have to reinvest a bunch of money to just build their transmission systems out, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the cause of all that is politicians, right?
Yeah, exactly. Government.
And so you let markets work, and markets can become pretty efficient. But when politicians start meddling in a lot of different issues and say, hey, we want it this way, this way, this way, and this way, then California is the best case. New York is another case. New York doesn't pay quite as much as California, but it's pretty close. It's more like 29 cents a kilowatt hour. So last week we see their Democrat governor issuing a moratorium on data center growth. And kind of back to the point that I was making, if we want to keep electricity prices more stable locally and local taxes stable, then today, in my opinion, there's no better type of development than a local data center. Because
increased supply drives down rates relative to demand, and when these guys show up and say, we need more supply, and they're going to pay their power bills, well, then the electricity providers go out and create more generation and transmission, which everybody benefits from, and that moderates price increases.
It is the very first economics class that we all took. We learned about economies of scale, right? And so when a company is able to increase production and spread production costs, it's fixed cost over more units of production, the price decreases per unit.
It's the economies of scale model.
Yeah, and so the way these electric companies are handling data center growth is they are applying all of the incremental cost requirements on the data centers, and then the routine upgrades that were going to have to happen in the system are going to be cheaper for all the other customers because now we have a data center customer to help us pay the cost.
And that's been explained numerous times. And in fact, that's a provision within the legislation, what was it, SB 2001, that consummated the transaction with Amazon Web Services, the first one in the state.
Yeah, and they tasked our elected public service commissioners to look at that to ensure that that's what's happening.
Hang around, we'll keep talking.
Sure.
We got Patrick Sullivan, president of Mississippi Energy Institute, in the Element Well studio.
For all your
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Let's go.
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. Here's a question I can answer, but I'm going to let you answer, Patrick. We're talking to Patrick Sullivan, president of Mississippi Energy Institute. Not agreeing or disagreeing with your guess, but supply and demand drives cost up in everything, but not electricity. It's not true. More supply relative to demand actually drives costs down. And in this case, the economies of scale, as you said. So there's a high fixed cost associated with the delivery of electricity. There is just about with anything. There's just a high fixed cost. And what you try to do is spread that fixed cost. And what all that really means, Jeff, is that it don't matter if you got one customer or 100, it's the same cost to produce that. When you're spreading that out over 100, you're keeping it down. I'll let you share your thoughts on that, Patrick.
Yeah, so electric systems are unique. It means that they're regulated and they're designed and built with growth in mind. And so I'm trying to put it in simple terms. Just say that our system has the capacity to carry 1 million kilowatt hours. But prior to data center development, it was only carrying 400,000 kilowatt hours.
Right.
And so if the data center is going to add is a 200,000 kilowatt hour customer, now the sales increase for the electric company, the profits increase for the electric company, and it takes the pressure off of all of the pre-existing customers to pay all of the cost, because the system was designed to carry growth anyway. So when we didn't have growth prior to data center development, it was problematic for us looking forward, because we had all these expensive old part replacements like generation plants and transmission facilities and distribution. And as you go through time, like you think about storm outages. We've all experienced storm outages, the inconveniences associated with that. Well, we all want our power company to get better at storm response, and we want a more resilient system. Well, all those things cost money. And so that is another benefit that we're seeing out of local data center growth. There was I think a $600 million plan to harden our system, and just with the local data center growth here in the metro area, at no cost to the existing customers, that was able to go from a $600 million plan to a $900 million plan. So in the future, that is designed to decrease storm outages.
I think there's also it's probably not widely understood, Patrick, that the major cost associated with producing and delivering electricity is in CapEx, not OpEx. It's the investments that are made in the generation plants, in the transmission lines, and other methods of delivering the electricity to consumers. It's not in the ongoing cost of fuel, which is used to power those generation facilities.
Well, so fuel is part of it.
It's part of it. Yeah.
So when we pay for a kilowatt hour, you're right. What we actually are paying for are electric lines, transformers, transmission lines, substations, and power plants. All of those and a very specialized workforce to maintain and operate. All of that. I think looking forward, the real threat of electricity price increases is not in industrial growth. It is in fuel prices.
And
so a lot of people don't realize, as a country, during the Obama administration, we adopted a policy basically that we were going to do our best to get out of the coal power generation business. And even before that, we had, I think, unintentionally adopted a policy that we're really not going to add any nuclear. And so what that leaves, as we're seeing all this rapid growth, the only way to meet demand is natural gas generation. So the real threat, I think, of electricity price increases in the future is if natural gas prices increase. They've been at really low levels here because we produce a lot of natural gas in the U.S. here for the last 15 years. But if natural gas, if things happen on infrastructure constraints, or we saw a brief increase during the start of the Ukraine-Russian war, there are factors that could result in supply and demand, to the point of the question by the listener, can increase the price situation of natural gas.
Or decrease it.
And roughly 80% of our generation these days in Mississippi is from natural gas, and so we would feel that.
Well, the good news is, as you know, Mississippi in this country has an abundance of natural gas. The problem is we have policies in other parts of the country that just won't let us get it out of the ground and won't let us transport it. New York, you brought that up earlier. I mean, we go around the world up there, do we not, from Pennsylvania, which is just flush with natural gas and oil as well, especially from fracking in western Pennsylvania. But New Yorkers pay more because we can't get that into the state of New York efficiently.
Yeah, a few years ago, they were basically giving gas away in Pennsylvania because they were producing so much. But the New York politicians were standing at the state line saying, we absolutely in no case will we let a pipeline company build a pipeline into our state to supply our citizens the energy that we need. And so you can see all the consequences of these types of decisions in higher electricity prices. Again, they pay. New Yorkers pay 29 cents a kilowatt hour, which is roughly twice what we pay.
That's incredible. I didn't know it was that high. So something else I think we should point out: we actually produce more natural gas in this country than we consume. We don't oil. Our oil production lags our consumption. But we are huge exporters of natural gas simply because we produce more than we can consume here, and that's without tapping all that we have available. So the good news is using natural gas to power electricity, as long as we keep producing more, we should be able to keep those prices low.
Yeah, there's potential for growth. Natural gas is like the perfect fuel. We use it for heating. You can use it for transportation. We use it for industrial fuel, and we use it for power generation. That's still increasing. Oil is much more of a global market, but and gas is becoming a global commodity because we're exporting more natural gas in the U.S., and all of this has just happened in the last 15 years. We're exporting more than we ever thought we would, and that's still growing. And so I think that's something to watch as we go forward, is the demand for natural gas through exports, through increased power generation, increased electrification. Hopefully the production will be able to keep up with the demand. And I think where you see, we have absolutely seen prices spike in areas, not in the South, but in areas that have bad policy that just won't let. It's more of an infrastructure bottleneck issue than it is an actual production issue.
Can't even make wood-fired pizza in New York anymore using natural gas stuff.
Yeah, don't even talk about coal fire.
Exactly, coal fire. So, so that's an issue. But now a lot of folks say with respect to data centers, well, they should have to produce their own power, but behind the meter. But the reality is, Patrick, then we don't benefit from the economies of scale when they're drawing from the public grid. Yeah. It's the opposite of what people think.
Yeah, policy needs to ensure that as it is in Mississippi today, that all of the rest of us, we get the benefit off of the industrial growth. And so I do think there are some considerations for the state. All of the utility laws and regulations that are written over the years never did contemplate really this type of scale.
Yeah.
And so you do have some that are considering what they say is, off-grid or behind-the-meter generation. There needs to be a clear pathway for those types of projects to go around. But the important part is you want the guardrails around that to make sure you're protecting, first and foremost, you're protecting the systems and all the rest of us that already lived here.
Yeah. I totally agree. So, and there are some situations, you're familiar probably with a big project Microsoft had going on in Pennsylvania. They're restarting one of the reactors from 3 Mile Island that melted down back in the 70s or 80s, I think. And by the way, they're restarting the reactor that did not melt down. And it's going to be dedicated to the Microsoft's big data center project, but it's going to produce more than they can consume, and they're going to end up including that and transferring that into the grid, the actual public utility.
Yeah, and so I think there's been a lot of development nationally. Demand, continues to go up. Who knows what the world looks like in 10 years? But I think what I would encourage is, like, from an industrial development standpoint, kind of going back to, if we want to keep taxes low and if we want to keep our electric bills low compared to other places, there's no better alternative today, no better opportunity than local data center development.
We need more scale.
Well, and the idea that data centers are going to take over farmland, it's just not. I think there's a lot of Karens out there. We got a break.
Hang on, we keep talking about it. We got Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute. We're coming right back.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I never meant to be so bad to you. One thing I said that I would never do. A look from you and I would fall from grace. that will wipe the smile right from my face. Do you remember when we used to dance? And incidents arose from circumstance. One thing led to another, we were young. And we were...
We're back with you in the Element Well studio. We're talking to Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute. So, the individual that asked about why am I paying for power to irrigation wells, even though I'm not actually using power for those wells at certain times of the year, and you were explaining on the break, there's a cost associated with just having power available. Essentially, that's what you're paying for.
Yeah, the ability to supply, and something like an irrigation system is more of a demand than plugging a lamp into the light of your home, and so there's planning required and larger transformers and wires required to. And this
goes back to the point I was making earlier, which is the major cost associated with delivering electricity is in the CapEx. It's in the infrastructure. It's in the substations. You went through the list: the transformers, the transmission lines, all that. It's not the variable cost. That's a cost. Sure, we recognize that, but the economics of that industry are primarily modeled around the cost of the investment to produce and deliver.
And what he's asking about, the system is designed for the customer to pay for the cost to provide the power that customer needs. It's the same on a much, much, much larger scale. It's the same thing with the data center. Those data center customers are paying all of the cost for the power, for electric power that they're required to operate their systems, so those costs don't get socialized on all the other parts of the system, which is all of us.
Right. So the Ag Commissioner of the state of Mississippi, he has made some proposals to include as part of the Department of Environmental Quality permitting process, specifically for data centers. And I reviewed those. I'm sure you did as well. One of those that really concerned me was the request that any companies seeking a permit to build a data center would have to provide to the Department of Environmental Quality proprietary customer agreements, contracts between private parties. This just seems like gross government intrusion to me.
Well, last week we saw the Democrat governor of New York issue a moratorium. We saw the Jackson City Council issue a temporary moratorium for development. And they sit in the city of Jackson, which is starving for revenue, has no idea how it's going to fix $1 billion water system problem. And then you had the Ag Commissioner release that it is overreach. Okay, and so what I would caution, kind of getting back to the point, politicians often tend to get in the way as opposed to help. What I would caution politicians, especially those running for office, is do your due diligence. There's a lot of information that can be gained. Don't believe everything that you read from the lady down the street on Facebook or somebody out of state that you don't know. It's easy to gather good information on this, and it is the job of the water company to ensure that in supplying industry that costs aren't unfairly put on other customers on the water system. It's the job of the electric company to ensure that cost in supplying any industry, chicken plants, car manufacturers, or data centers, that those costs aren't put on the other customers, or to the question of the irrigation equipment on the farm, that those costs aren't socialized across the system. It is not the job of the DEQ permit board to make all the economic decisions for the state of Mississippi. It's the job of the DEQ permit board to ensure that air permits are issued according to state and federal laws and regulations.
This is picking winners and losers. Like the DEQ board can determine whether or not they're going to use those contracts to determine the financial viability of a private sector company. They have expertise in that.
They don't.
No. Well, I mean, that's crazy.
It's not their job. And kind of going back to where we started.
It's not relevant to permitting for environmental purposes.
It is fair for people to have questions, but there are places to get those questions answered. And it is overreach to have a narrow environmental air permit board consider things that are well outside of their and so I just call any politician to do their due diligence, because there's a lot of information. Taking the water issue, it's funny to me that one of the biggest water consumers in the country are golf courses.
Yep.
When we build golf courses, do we ever hear about how much water are they going to? The golf courses generally use more water than
50. I can tell you,
data centers.
I looked it up. The U.S. Geological Survey publishes all this information. 50 times more than data centers. The Nissan plant that builds cars up the road here in Canton, it uses about 1 million gallons a day, 350 million gallons a year. Both AWS campuses for Amazon in Madison County will consume a total of 170 million, half as much as Nissan. Where's all the people been raising hell about Nissan? For 20 years they've been doing that.
Well, the reason for that is because nobody's writing about it on Facebook.
I see. That's what it is, social media.
So let's not let random users out there on Facebook dictate what our public policies are in important agencies like the Department of Environmental Quality, where we need those guys to do a good job, but we need them to do it in a way that encourages the development that we all need, because we all want to keep our taxes low. We all want our communities to be nice. We want our electric bills to be low, and that can't happen if we are not growing or if we are in decline, like the city of Jackson. And so we've got Madison County and Hinds County right next to each other. Going forward, we're going to see a real-world economic case study of two counties, one that is forward-thinking, attracting development, growing its tax base, keeping taxes low. I live in Madison.
Me too.
I don't think my taxes will ever go up.
In fact, I'm lobbying them to pull them back to reduce the millage in the county level.
Meanwhile, in Jackson, you've got a $1 billion water system problem. You've got a sewer system problem. You've got crumbling roads across and no way to pay for all of it. And so eventually where they're headed is either more degraded conditions or higher taxes, or both.
There are concerns about land usage because these are big facilities. In Mississippi, about 5,000 acres is dedicated to the 7 projects across the state, data center projects across the state, here in Madison County, Hinds County, Warren County, Lauderdale County, DeSoto County. Mississippi has 31 million acres of total land, total area, so that amounts to, when you do the math on that, 0.01%. 0.01% of total land dedicated to these data centers, which at this point is about $85 billion of investment. So it seems like a pretty good trade-off. And none of that's agricultural land. With respect to water, most people don't realize, according to the United States Geological Survey, Mississippi consumes 1 trillion gallons a year. 1 trillion. So we're talking about these data centers consuming about 200 million. So that's 0.015% of the total water.
Well, a few years ago, you remember we had 5 million gallons a day going in the ditch out here by Colonial Country Club.
That's absolutely true.
Like I do. That's a water problem.
Way more waste coming from just bad water systems and those that have been neglected because they don't have the money to fix them. They say they don't, at least. So we have a lot more waste there. Look, those are legitimate concerns. We're not dismissing that. But you got to dig underneath the covers and get down to the facts and the truth. And I'm sorry, do a little math. And sometimes that math involves big numbers and that hurts people's heads. And I get that. The nation consumes 120 trillion gallons, by the way, and the world consumes 946 trillion annually. We're almost at a quadrillion gallons a year consumed in the world, and about 250 billion of that comes from data centers, which is far less than 0.01% of the total consumption.
Yeah, growth brings challenges, but the challenges that come with growth are much more preferable than the challenges that come with decline.
Good point.
And so I would encourage our politicians to do their due diligence.
Do a little homework.
And with everything, there's cost in it. But,
sure.
but the advantages in this case far outweigh.
It's the best thing that could happen to
challenges.
the city of Jackson. I was so disappointed to see that they had just passed this moratorium because they're essentially advocating for and voting against their interests.
If there ever was an actual data center opportunity in Jackson, it could probably be the single thing that could justify fixing the billion-dollar water system.
100% completely right. Yeah. They just hung up a big closed for business sign on the city of Jackson, in my view, by this action. Appreciate you coming in, Patrick.
Thanks.
Patrick Sullivan, president of the Mississippi Energy Institute, has been our guest. We're coming right back. Final segment today from the Element Well studio.
Up of Mississippi.
Are we going to do this? Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
I find it kind of interesting, Rhino, that the amount of water data centers will consume in Mississippi, it calculates out to the same, as a percentage of the total consumed in the state, is the same as nationwide. It's odd how that works out. They're talking about the nationwide consumption of water versus the nationwide data center consumption of water. It figures out exactly to 0.017%. 0.017. Just want to be emphatic about that.
It's almost like an industry that actually has to worry about the bottom line, is concerned about efficiencies.
Correct. That's the way the private sector works. And the good news is, and again, I'm not dismissing folks' concern about water usage, but the fears are grossly overblown. Oh my gosh, we're not going to have anything to drink. That's just horse hockey. Well, then quit flushing your toilets and quit building golf courses and quit irrigating them. And there's a million other examples as well.
I can pretty much guarantee you that the people protesting data centers are not the kind of people that can afford to build a golf course.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that. The city of Jackson, I feel confident, could benefit tremendously, as Patrick said, if they would allow the site around the old Lake Hyco, which, by the way, used to be where Mississippi Power and Light had a generation plant, a steam generation plant there for many years, right by the lake, which is close in West Jackson over there to where I grew up on Northside Drive, kind of sandwiched between Bowling Street and Watkins, those of you familiar with the area of central Mississippi. But nonetheless, that lake's been drained. And so there was discussions about perhaps building a data center on that site. And people came out and said, wait, that's prime real estate for commercial and residential development. That's prime real estate? It's a war zone. It is in shambles. It's dilapidated. This would be the best thing that could ever happen to that area. Probably the only possible project that would consider locating at that particular site. It would be fantastic. And so here's what happens is, okay, that drives them into one of the neighboring counties, Madison, Rankin. Then they'll get mad because they'll get all the revenue from it. On the C-Spire text line, Shack Bully in Biloxi, that same sales pitch casinos made. You want your schools and public infrastructure paid for. I just rebuilt the front end in my truck, and the commercials for school supplies run nonstop. I'm not sure where the school supply commercials are. I think that gets overblown as well, honestly, Shack Bully. And that is that the pitch for gaming was that this would provide more revenue to the state for education. That's absolutely true because education is 53% of our general fund budget, and all the casino gaming taxes go to the general fund. Now, it amounts to $170 million a year. It's not significant in the overall $7.3 billion budget. But it is true, Shaq Bully, that the way the law was designed that legalized casino gaming in the state of Mississippi, there's a piece of that stays local. So I would encourage you to look at the local public schools on the coast. They're all pretty dang good. In fact, last I checked, Ocean Springs has the top rated school. If not, it's right up there. I know our friend Casey Waters that tunes in regularly sits on the school board there. So they have received significant, and they continue. I think about $80 million last year locally. So, but I just found it kind of curious that the same percentage of that water usage, and again, does it make sense to put anything that uses a lot of water in the drought-stricken, water-parched areas of this country? No, it doesn't. It wouldn't make sense to put a golf course in the middle of the desert, though we have them all over the place. I know because I've played them, and they do use water. But they do it sparingly. I'll say that. And in the summer, man, those golf courses don't look very good. Their prime season, of course, is when everybody escapes the cold and the wet of the winter in this part of the country and in the Northeast. And, man, they flock to the desert Southwest, Vegas, Southern California to go play golf that time of year. And that's when the courses are all overseeded with ryegrass. After the ryegrass dies out in about June, though, man, they don't look very good when the ryegrass is gone and you got all the dead Bermuda, what looks like, or dormant kind of underneath it. Steam, how much water did that destroy? Didn't never be used again, says Jason Starkville. Yeah, and so that's absolutely true. I remember riding by that old power plant there on Northside Drive. Also made a bunch of noise, by the way. It was pretty loud. And that was 50 years ago. About the data center, some people just want to gripe about everything. That is from Paul and Meridian. Let's see what else we got. Are the energy companies open and encouraging buying energy from companies that produce more power? Yeah, they have those agreements in place, Jeff and Carrollton. We're out of here today. Back tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.